this is Michael William Denny of the ThunderWizard.com YouTube channel. Welcome back. So today I want to ask you a question, which is, why do bad things happen to people? I remember there was a book, I think it was probably 30 or 40 years ago, that was called Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? And it was to answer this question, why are there earthquakes? Why are there famines? Why are there wars? Why are little children born in challenging, painful circumstances? Why do all of these things happen? Why do evil people run around? Why are people hurt? Why do people hurt each other? And the answer that book came up to was, well, God can't be everywhere at once. He's got a lot on his plate, and sometimes stuff slips through his fingers. Which I found very interesting because, God is supposed to be omnipotent. So how can this omnipotent God allow all these horrible things to happen? Well, he's either not all-loving, or he's not omnipotent, or he doesn't exist, perhaps. But, from a spiritual perspective, when we talk about exiting the matrix, we understand that we have the power to leave this limited illusion that we call three-dimensional living, where we feel that we are victimized by outside circumstances. There are actually some rules to not only living in the matrix, but exiting the matrix and mastering the matrix and creating your own matrix, where you can create the perfect life that you want. If you haven't, please go back and watch that video now so that you can understand what the rules are. So let me get to this question, because this is really important, because when I talk about how you can master the matrix, that you can exit the matrix if you want to, or you can recreate the matrix in any way that you want to create your perfect life. Whenever I say that you yourself are responsible for everything that happens in your life, that all of the external things that happen in your life are really the projection, like a movie projector that comes from your own internal struggles. And these are good things. These are things that you have wanted to learn. So you project them out into your external environment so that you can learn from them. But it's important that you have to understand that you, in fact, have control over this matrix, that you're waking up within the dream, as I call it. But whenever I point that out, there's always somebody who says, well, if that's true, what about those poor children? I always want to talk about children. That's important to understand. They say, what about those poor children? And then they get actually offended. To accept the idea that we create all of our own challenges, that we create all of our own misery, is somehow saying that those poor children, those innocent victims of challenges in this life, that somehow we're not honoring what happens to them. So I want to address that, because in my experience, the people who bring this up as a main objection to the idea that you can have everything that you want, that you can control what happens in your world, that you can rise up and have complete victory over your life, that those people who don't want to accept that are themselves feeling exactly like those little children. They feel like helpless, tiny victims. And I'm not trying to minimize that, and I am not judging that. Trust me, I have had my own challenges, and if you knew some of the things I've been through, you'd know that I know what that's like. Now, I may not know exactly what you've gone through in your life, but I can promise you a lot of you have no idea some of the things that I've gone through. And I am the person that I am today because I was lucky enough to learn that I can choose how I want to interface with my life. And I have come to learn that no matter how difficult the circumstances are, if you make the decision that everything in your life is your own creation, then that means if you're going through difficult challenges, it means that you created those challenges. But the good news is that if you created the challenges, then you can also create the solutions. And you can live in the solution. But in order to do that, you have to drop the idea that you're a helpless victim. So again, it's interesting to me that full-grown adults, when they're given this knowledge that they can create their own life, that everything in their life is their own creation, they want to say, well, if that's true, what about the poor, innocent victim children? That's because you think you are. You see yourself in those children. See, when I look at those children now, in whatever circumstances they are, and a lot of them have gone through things that I can't even imagine, and nor would I want to imagine. But what I see when I look at them is I see very powerful souls. Souls who have chosen before this particular birth to put themselves into a difficult situation so that they can learn the lesson that they are omnipotent. Now, sometimes we don't get the lesson. Sometimes it may take a few lifetimes, which means that some souls choose to come back multiple times with difficult challenges so that they can learn from them. But as I've said before, it's incredibly important to understand that for the soul, life on earth is nothing more than a video game. You can call it the Matrix if you want, but it's not a matrix of evil archons or some jealous deity that's sitting above you and looking over this flat earth and telling you how to live and sucking the life out of you. No, that's not how this video game works. If you want it to be that way, it will be. Because this universe, again, if you want to call it the Matrix, it responds to you. It thinks, the Matrix, the universe, thinks that you are Neo. It thinks that you are God. If you don't believe you're God, the universe doesn't know that. The universe assumes that you know that you're God. So if you put out the intention that you are a limited victim with no hope and no future, that you are controlled and abused, then the universe goes, oh, you want to play that game? Okay, we'll create that. And it creates that game for you. It doesn't know that you don't know. It doesn't know that you forgot. This is why it's so important that we remember the old ways, because the old ways, and by the old ways what I mean is before established religion came around about 2,000 years ago. Before that time, our ancestors knew that they were descended from the gods. They knew that they themselves were gods in training. They knew that this game of life was temporary, which is why my ancestors, the Norse people, had this belief that the most valiant thing you can do is die in battle. They weren't afraid of death. They weren't afraid of disease. In fact, they believed that if you were brave enough to live your life ready to die at any given moment, that you wouldn't have disease. This is how our ancestors thought, but we don't think like that today. We think we live in this universe, and I have never seen in my lifetime, I have never seen people to the degree that they do now believe that they are absolutely helpless. I mean, now there are people who won't even believe what's right in front of them. They believe that everything is a lie and an illusion. So it's important that we remember who we are, and that starts with having a direct connection to this energy field that we call the life force energy. My ancestors called it the web of weird. And if you haven't already, please go back and watch the video on the web of weird so you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I've talked a long time, but I just wanted to address this issue of why do bad things happen. Bad things happen because your soul, who does not experience things the way you do in the body, the soul has decided that it wants to learn that it is omnipotent. And the only way that it will learn that is if it creates challenges for itself to overcome. So when you see small children who are born into very horrible, difficult circumstances, or if you yourself grew up and were a child that went through horrible, difficult circumstances. What's important to remember is that you chose that. And I know that's hard to accept because it might have been very traumatic. But let me give you a choice. Which would you rather be? Would you rather be a helpless victim? Or would you rather be an omnipotent God? I would much rather be an omnipotent God. And if you're an omnipotent God who has put themselves in a challenging position so that they can remember through those challenges who they are, then you'll know what I'm talking about, where you can actually master life. And you can look back at all of those challenges and you can realize that they were just tiny little lessons and that your soul is enormous. And trust me, you will remember what I'm telling you. When you exit this life, you will remember what I've said. And you will say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to go back again and I'm going to remember it this time. So anyway, that's it for now. For those of you, if you want to get a deeper understanding of how to actually not only understand that you are in control of this matrix, but that you want to learn how to manipulate, to control reality through what our ancestors would call magic. It's actually an energetic science. Then follow this link here. That is to the Master Shamanism class page where you can learn how to interface with this life force energy and to master it. For those of you, if you like this channel, please subscribe, like, and comment. And if you need to, you can have a private session with me, and I can help counsel you into whatever, wherever it is that you need to go. So that's it for now, my friends. Until next time, remember, you are not a finite victim child. You are an infinite, ageless soul living in a video game that you created for yourself. You can change it in any way you want, at any time you want. I'm going to show you how.